Sky here with Smart Poker Study. I'm going to give you 6 tips to tackle the rest of 2024 with gusto. Gambate! We're going to dive right in with step number 1, study while avoiding overwhelm. I call this one until done with action. This is studying one topic at a time and only one item per day while taking notes, and then practicing the strategies you learn before studying a new item. Now, how is this going to help you? Well, overwhelm used to be a huge issue for me. For example, I would watch 3 videos in one day on different topics, right? First video on c-betting, video number 2, pre-flop bet sizing, video number 3, missing the flop with ace-king. Now, those are 3 totally different topics, and by overwhelming myself with so much, I guaranteed that I wouldn't practice any of it, and I just wouldn't improve that day. So how do you do one until done with action? Well, first, choose one strategy to focus on for the week, or at a minimum, focus on for today. Find one item to study and take notes. Practice one thing you learned from that one item you studied. And then lastly, repeat this over and over until you've practiced everything from that one item and you see improvement in your skills. Step number 2 is to do daily hand reading exercises. So hand reading is poker's number 1 skill, and it's the art and science of putting your opponent on a pre-flop range of hands, then you narrow that range through the streets. With a narrowed range, you can make better reads and better exploits against your opponents to earn more pots and to earn more value. So the best thing I ever did for my game was to do 66 days of hand reading. You can find all 66 videos on my YouTube channel. And video number 1 is actually embedded in the show notes page for today, smartpokerstudy.com/pod495. Now, I was already a winning player prior to the 66 days, but doing the 66 consecutive days in a row, it improved my hand reading skills, improved my studies, and improved my play. It just improved my game across the board. Now, there are 3 things that you need for hand reading. Number 1 is you need to have hand histories. And of course, I use Poker Tracker 4 to save all of my online poker hands. You also need Flopzilla Pro. This is the best hand reading software and it's worth every penny, and it's only $25. Truly, totally worth it. And the third thing, you need to learn the steps of hand reading, so I recommend my online poker hand reading workbook. 95 pages with key strategies, 38 hand reading walkthroughs and exercises, 15 video demonstrations with quizzes, and a 17-page answer key. Get it through the show notes page or just go to smartpokerstudy.com/hand-reading-workbook. Step 3 of the 6 steps is to play for bread and butter. So bread and butter is the most profitable situation you can put yourself in. That means you're in position as the pre-flop raiser against 1 or 2 other players. Now, as the pre-flop raiser, you have the strongest range, and your opponents have to consider that. You have position, so you've got that informational, and a slight time advantage too. You get to think while they're taking the time to think. And when you're facing just 1 or 2 opponents, it makes it easier for you to put your hand reading skills to use to make great reads and exploitative plays. So how are you going to play for bread and butter? You need to raise more frequently than you call pre-flop. You want to have wider raising ranges in the cutoff and the button. That includes 3-betting ranges. You want to ISO raise the limpers instead of limping behind. And also, of course, you want to 3-bet more like I already mentioned, especially when you have position in the cutoff and the button. And you want to defend your blinds less often. Step number 4 is to table select. Now, table selection is a key skill for profitability, and it's where you actively look for profitable tables. And the general rule, the more fish on a table, the more potential profits. So let's imagine 2 extremes. You're playing 6 max. You have one table over here with 5 fish. The other table has 5 winning tight aggressive players. I guarantee that table with 5 fish, it's way more profitable, easy, and fun. Because fish make a ton of mistakes, and often just playing their cards and the board. They don't even think about you, your range, your position, your bet sizes. Their mistakes and their unsophisticated plays put their chips in your stack. So how do you table select? Well, first you want to actively count the fish at your table. Within 10 hands, even just less than 2 rounds of sitting at a 6-max table, you should see a lot of calling, limping, and minimal 3-bets. If everyone appears to be a strong winner and super aggressive, it's a good idea to leave the table and find another one with more fishy players. You also want to think about who is seated on your direct left because they have position on you in most hands. If it's a strong, aggressive player who can make your exploits difficult, make your life at the table miserable, leave the table and find another one. You want to be the one putting the screws to your opponents, not having them put them to you. Step number 5 of 6 to win the rest of 2024 is to call less and 3-bet more. Now, most players are very profitable when 3-betting, but they're losers or maybe slight winners when calling. Because of this, I think we should strive to make more 3-bets than calls. So take the time to check your own win rates right now. Do a little bit of filtering in Poker Tracker 4. So aggression wins in poker. By turning calls into 3-bets, you're putting the screws to that open raiser. This gives you the opportunity to win the pot pre-flop if they fold, and if they call, you can still hit something good on the flop or even take it down with a c-bet bluff. And lastly, calling is non-bread and butter poker because you're purposefully putting yourself in a losing situation. 3-betting, especially in position, that is bread and butter poker. Now I have a video on the show notes page for today embedded there. It's all about turning pre-flop calls into 3-bets. I teach you how to do that in the video. Please check it out. But here are the basics behind that video. Every time you face an open raise, consider the merits of 3-betting. Now, of course, if you hold ace, king, or pocket jacks or better, it's a pretty easy decision to 3-bet. It's those weaker hands that's tough. So I'm going to give you 6 aspects of the perfect 3-bet bluff. If all 6 of these are in place, 3-bet bluffing is a very good idea. Number 1, you're in position. Number 2, you hold an ace, preferably suited and connected. Number 3, you're facing a small open raise and he has a large stack. Number 4, his raise first in by position is greater than 20%. His raise and then fold to 3-bet is greater than 50%. And number 6 is his fold to flop c-bet is greater than 50%. But that video I have embedded in the show notes page, it goes over all 6 of those aspects with plenty of hand examples for you. All right, step number 6, read The Mental Game of Poker by Jared Tendler. Now, this is my favorite poker book and it's helped me immensely with my tilt and anger issues. The mental game, that's something that most players ignore, and at the same time, it's probably the leading cause of poker losses. Anger, entitlement, revenge, a hatred of losing, all of those and more lead to terrible play and further loss. The Mental Game of Poker addresses all the critical mental game issues and it gives clear advice on how to work through them to strengthen your mental game. So get that book ASAP. And what I want you to do is focus on only this book for an entire month. Pick a month in the rest of 2024 and dedicate every play session to mentally strengthening your game and reading part of that book so you finish it by the end of the month. Next month, after working on your mental game, then you can get back to skill acquisition.